course, kuji-in, we could have weeks of teachings on every little aspect, but the majority of that teaching is contemplating the philosophy, applying it in daily life, and doing the actual physical practice with the mudra, the mantra, and taking time to do the spiritual work that will allow you to physically embody that wisdom, so even your body starts to behave and endorse that wisdom. In this sense, the physical body has a genetic code, and the physical body will want to obey the natural program, which is the need to survive. We can become virtuous in our mind by observing ourselves, virtuous in our heart or emotional plane, and still the body will be an animal who wants to feed and entertain his sexuality and stuff like that, okay? Which is okay, by the way, no judgment there. Let's consider that in your mind you learn some philosophy, and intellectually you grasp it, and then you want to forgive, but emotionally there's a pressure. Door opens, the door closes. Now we can continue. So we learn intellectually the wisdom. We want to forgive, we want to be virtuous, we want to be charitable, but emotionally, this hatred will not do the forgiveness. But I want to forgive that person. That's because you start with we learn from the top low, you know, we learn the wisdom, we intellectually understand it. It still didn't sink at the emotional level, where emotionally you will have the reflex of compassion, of not wanting to suffer, until we explain to your mind why it's okay to forgive someone who hurt you. The heart has tons of bad reasons for not forgiving, but it believes it's a good reasons until proven otherwise. For example, I don't believe in forgiveness because he didn't have the right to do that. And forgiving is like saying they don't have to correct their behavior. They don't have to resolve their issue. So I don't believe in forgiveness. You know, that's the emotional, and sometimes the mind also agree with that, but that's a typical emotional reaction. Why should I forgive? Because it's not correct and they should correct their behavior, and actually it's all projected outside. In this sense, I'm using forgiveness as an example. In this sense, we don't forgive to approve that what they did was good. Of course not. We don't forgive to acknowledge that they don't have to correct their behavior if they have a behavior that is inappropriate. This is not a reason why we forgive. When you're angry at someone that hurt you, if they repent, and if they correct their behavior and never do it again to anyone else, you are still angry at them for when they did it. Huh? You're still emotionally implicated. So forgiveness is not about if the other corrects their behavior or not. It's not about if you approve or not what they did. It's to disengage your personal implication of reaction towards the event that happened, regardless if there is correction of their behavior or not. And it does not approve or endorse someone else's inappropriate behavior. It has nothing to do with that. Forgiveness is, I want to stop suffering for that. And forgiveness will happen when you have the humility to observe yourself and admit that you are not a fully accomplished divine being yourself, and you also have your mistakes, and we're all evolving. In this sense, when you get angry, I've taught that like a million times, but here we go again. When you get angry, did you choose to? I didn't make a choice. Am I going to forgive that asshole who cut me down on the highway? I'm just going to go, fuck you! Just cut me on the highway, I was afraid. Yeah, bam, it comes. Someone does something that you judge as inappropriate because it attacks your personal values, your attachments, your dependencies. like someone steals your money or calls names to your family name. And bam, that anger rises. You didn't choose it. It happened naturally. Okay? So, do you believe that you're such a master of yourself that you have the right to think that the other masters themselves that way? In the sense that when someone insults you, do you really think that they chose it, or are they just still a slave of their own anger, like you when you are a slave of your own reactions? So if you can understand that yourself, you are submitted to your emotional pressures inside, and have the humility to admit it, you will understand that the others are also submitted to their lack of evolution and maturity emotionally, which allows you a better understanding. This person got angry at you because they are suffering, not because you really are an asshole, if they call you that. Do you understand the dynamics? Forgiveness is possible when you have the humility to accept that we're evolving, and that includes you. It's so hard on the pride, because when you can't forgive someone, he's just too proud. He didn't have the right to do that. Of course he didn't. Of course, we agree. But your pride about defending that point, when it changes nothing anymore, is what prevents you from forgiving. So that's just one example of what I'm talking about. You can learn the wisdom intellectually, but in your persone, in your rashi, the Jita Rashi is about conquering every aspect of you that misunderstands evolution and growth, which prevents you from having the desire to be virtuous even at the emotional level. So to disengage the animal defense system. Then there's also the virtue of justice, where you will work in order, if you can do something about it, you will do what you can to make sure that the other person corrects their behavior. Because forgiveness is not about accepting inappropriate behavior. Forgiveness is about stopping the hateful experiences that you are stuck in because you're way too proud to have compassion for people who are still evolving, doing their best. Okay? Understanding no one never wanted to hurt anyone. Did you ever really want to hurt anyone? Of course not. But you did. Through your inexperience, through your passions, through your explosions of anger, through your fears, through your defenses. And these reactions cause suffering to you and others. And the younger we are, the more mistakes we do. As we grow old, we tend to repress more and handle ourselves better. Not all the time, but most of the time for most people. So we learn the wisdom intellectually. We can agree up to a certain point, and we have to disengage what does not agree. Then the heart still doesn't give a shit, because the heart, the emotional level, doesn't understand your intellectual explanation. The intellect, the mental plane is one level, the emotional plane is another level. So emotionally, your emotional plane has another opinion about everything that you think you have. You have your mental opinion about everything. Your emotional plane doesn't give a shit about any one of your opinions. He still thinks the other's an asshole because I'm proud and I can't forgive. And this is the work we have to do in the Jita Rashi. Then, once you have emotionally initiated the process of transformation, at least you'll become more powerful for real. Because by taking charge of these emotional explosions, sometimes an explosion of depression, I mean, you don't choose it. When you spend an evening of abandonment and dark anguish of feeling so lonely, and you can't control it, it just feels so bad for an evening. It happens, you know, everyone once a year, sometimes it's every day for a few rare of you. But usually at once in our life, we have this terrible, dark moment of loneliness, anxiety. It just strikes us. Did you choose that? Of course not. There's an accumulation of pressure, and there's stuff that imposes itself on you. So how can you declare to be a master of something when obviously there are these forces sometimes that come and impose themselves to you and you didn't choose it. It just happened. And that is not self-mastery. So to declare ourselves a master of ourselves, I master I know what I am, I'm responsible. Are you serious? Are you really in charge of every emotional experience that rises? There's some growth, there's some work to do there for years, okay? I still have these moments of anguish because I'm a human being. I live it differently than most because I trained a lot. I just have competence and practice. I go sit in it and I have my 15 minutes of hell instead of 3 days like most people. Some people stay stuck in there. We call that a depression. Okay, we have a year or something, or some people are depressed for 10 years because they can't do that single healing and they're stuck in. So to think that we master ourselves, we're so proud as humans to think that I'm being responsible, Maha. I'm in charge. Seriously, you are in charge. Okay, so when's the last time you got angry? Did you choose it? Being in charge or being responsible is not a binary phenomenon. It's not you are or you're not. It's to which point. It's in proportion to what. And you gradually gain that mastery and sense of responsibility over your emotions. Okay? In a dojo, these emotions impose themselves on you. And in a fight, it will determine how much power you can deliver. If you gain that mastery, you will be able to choose to have an explosion of power or choose not to have one. For example, if a fight could happen, the best win in a fight is for the fight not to happen. But if you don't master that surge of anger, the fight will happen. Because you didn't choose. Your animal just went for the fight. If you're that kind of person. You're the kind of person that will go and seek it. And you don't know. You might be this little wussy guy who's afraid of everything, but once you know martial art, you just go, explode in rage. I was like that. I was a little nerd, fat, greasy hair, knows everything about computers and nothing about women, and everything was about being afraid. But once a combat happened, I just destroyed the guy. He went to the hospital. I had to live with the consequences of that. And I didn't master myself. So if you think that you're this scared little person once and you have training in martial arts, there will be something will happen and you have changed. You don't know it. You don't know who you are until you actually live the experience about it. And then it's over. You still have to discover in the present moment, okay? In this sense, if you believe that you are this kind of guy who would fight, you don't know if you don't have a little wussy inside that will just be stuck in that fear and unable to go through it. And hopefully you'll never have to face that situation in your life. But if it ever happens, you'll know how you react. There's a guy in Denmark who was telling us he trained for many years. All this ninjutsu for him was like intense. And he trained everything about grabbing a gun in someone's hand and everything. And one day a guy happened in an alley and pulled a gun and said, "Give me your money or die." And he just shit his pants, gave his wallet right there. Did nothing about it. And he told me, he's one of my students in Denmark, he said, "I discovered myself. I knew how I really was and how I would face a real situation like that when it happened. Until it happened, he was a superhero in his dreams, fighting evil and removing guns from someone who pointed in their face. This money is worth nothing compared to staying alive. That's it. It's over, So, I was not threatened by a gun when I was young and destroyed the guy. I was threatened with unfounded weapons. So, I mean, it's all different stories. Believing that you're in charge is not knowing if you're in charge. Because when life events happen, you know how you react when you do. So gaining mastery is not to plan ahead. I know how I will act now. Because when it happens, I've trained myself to be in charge. This is not mastery. Mastery is to become fully available to stay in charge when an event happens, and still you discover on the spot how you will manage that event. And you usually do it wiser and wiser as you gain mastery of yourself. Okay? So knowing intellectually something, doing the actual physical practice of the art itself, and emotionally developing that mastery at the emotional level, because your heart has a different opinion that doesn't really care about everything you believe in your head. Okay? It's not the same topic. It's how it wants to react. Now your body has the same. Your body has genetic defense systems. So you have another voice. In the physical body, you have another power that will rise in every situation, which is not the one of the heart and is not the one of the mind. So sometimes a situation happens in your life and you just go, let me think about it, I'm confused now. And you know, you have this simple question. I ask a friend, do you want to come to the movies? And he just goes, I don't know, let me think about it. Like if it was all in his mind, and I explained to him, okay, physically this is what you're experiencing. Vitally you want to experience that. Emotionally you want to experience that. And mentally this is what you feel. This is why you don't know, because all these voices are telling different things inside you. That's why you're confused. So sort it out amongst yourselves and call me back. And then I just hang up. And I laughed like crazy, and he laughed like crazy. He calls me back, and you know, with that speech you just gave me, I'm going to the movies right now. But still, it was fun. It was fun. What he found fun is that I really described exactly which plane was feeling what. But just because I developed clairvoyance with time, and I know him also as a person, so all that together gave me some kind of credibility in terms of information. However, what matters here is the discovery that the body has a tension. At one point, the body wants to physically copulate, but the vital body wants to rest. And then the emotional body wants to feel affection, and it's not about sexuality. And the mental body wants entertainment with friends, not with the lover. And so you just go, what am I going? Am I going with the girl tonight, or I'm just going to hang out with the boys? And you just don't know what's going to happen, because all these voices are talking, and you don't listen to them. You just take care of the intellectual level, the mental level voice. But all the other voices are talking, and because you don't know how to listen to the deep core of yourself, because you did not jitarashi, you did not conquer the personality traits, which is not just mental, it's every aspect of you. It takes time, but it's faster than you can believe. It's like, oh my God, there's so much to discover. It's like a mountain. No, it's not like a mountain. It's like a road. You'll never be done. So don't think that you have a mountain that you found so big, believing that shoveling it one shovel at a time, eventually there'll be no more to resolve. This is a bad perception. You're always going to deal with whatever rises. However, you can gain skills quite quickly if you practice daily. Okay? Give yourself a few days of break, and then a few days of introspection, what's going on, physical practice of kuji-in, the actual application of the wisdom. You just take everything at once, and eventually you gain that mastery, and someone insults you, and you just look at that person and you wonder, okay, I think I actually could choose to understand why he's saying that. Or I could get angry right now. I feel that pressure, I could do it. You just become objective, and you know the voices that talk every level, that has an opinion about it, and you just breathe, feel it. Oh, so this is the pain that I have right now. Okay. Well, and you just say, well, I thank you for insulting me, because it allows me to discover how proud I am. And I understand why you could feel insulted. You're the one suffering about it right now, not me. And then you just go on your way. You know? And that's the cool part of mastering yourself, is the pressures that rise inside you to impose a moment of suffering without consulting you. These moments diminish in power and diminish in lengths of time until it becomes a choice. And obviously, most of the time, you'll choose not to go into a reaction. You still have your suffering to deal with. But it's not a suffering that imposes itself like 1,000 tons of anger. It just becomes, whoo, oh, that just insulted me. Thank you. Now I know more pride about myself. Wow, you know, personal growth. All right, let's do this. I got to the point now. Don't compare yourself to me. I've been doing this for 9 years. Yeah, 29 years. 29 years of conscious spiritual process with little breaks and lots of application. So I get to the point, if someone insults me, I think, okay, so what can I do to make this person stop suffer about it? And it just flies through, you know. But it's not through indifference. It's not that I shielded myself by indifference. It really goes in. There is opinion about it in my multi-plane experience. And all of those opinions is automatic forgiveness. What's going on? Okay, this person's suffering because I've been through that a lot. And my response is immediate virtue. What can I do for this person? Sometimes it's nothing. I mean, this person, if the person didn't choose to do a process of transformation or personal growth or discovering themselves in any way, what I can do is respect their freedom to evolve naturally at the slow pace of nature, which is okay. So it's their free will is their free will. It's okay. I'm at peace with that. I chose to evolve quickly. I can not be so arrogant as to think the others should evolve too. No, they chose not to. It's their thing. They're going to suffer their own choices or absence of choice because they don't know they can choose it, but it's not my karma, you know, it's not my thing. So it takes this discernment and this compassion to accept there's a natural evolution in all things, in all people. I decided to make that process because I feel better and I grow skills faster and I'm physically powerful more than those who just don't train at any level, but that's my choice. You know, I became a good healer, I became a good martial artist when I did a lot. Now I don't do a lot because I travel too much, so I can't keep my, my schedule together because there's no stability in my life, so I live with that. You know? But when I was doing martial art, it was pretty efficient, pretty quick. Then it went away because I stopped training. Like any muscle, it's just not good anymore. But I got the experience once, you know, for what, 20 years of my life, I got it. So in this case, you will get to the point of having a virtuous reflex instead of a vicious or a neutral reflex. You'll get to this point of, I understand why you insult me right now. You have an opinion and you're the one suffering about it because right now you're the one who's angry and I'm not the one being insulted. I don't feel insulted. It's you who feel the need to insult. So, I mean, you can say this to someone insulting you, they will not get it and find you even more weird, which doesn't really matter because you don't have a personality to protect anymore, which is okay. I mean, it takes discernment at one point to just respect others who didn't choose that path. Okay? So what I'm doing, we spoke yesterday of the first 3 kuji-in, Rin, Kyoto, and now recapping what it takes to go onto SHA is to understand little aspects about that jitarashi. That this conquest of person is not just an intellectual process because you have multiple voices inside you, and if you don't open to every level of opinion, the one of your animal, the one of your persona, your emotions, the one of your identity, which is the mind, mostly the mind, all of that comes together and this is you. This is what you are, okay? And it takes some kind of availability to that information that will rise from inside. Okay, information rises from inside. Is it going to impose itself on me or is it just going to talk loudly and I listen with care? It comes with practice. You know, to get to this point of not obeying your passions, meaning your angers, your need of affection to the point that you have a powerful heartbreak, all these powerful things that we live in life, it takes 2-3 years of constant work on yourself in this path of personal growth to stop being a slave of the passions. Okay, so after 2 months of doing this kind of level of work with kuji-in, because it's not just a physical practice with the mudras and mantras and chakra, There's the Dharma and the living the wisdom, the introspection, and the study of yourself in the dojo, the study of yourself in the kitchen, the study of yourself at work, and then alone in your own cave, you know. If after 2 or 3 months you don't get that freedom, that mastery, it just means that you're absolutely normal. So don't be too hard on yourself, okay? It takes time. But right from the first week, you'll get a soothing effect because the pressure immediately starts to soften up. First time you dig into yourself, it hurts, you want to die. But then you get better and better at it. Okay? So this is all the entire aspect of Jitarashi. Intentional personal growth with the humility to responsibilize yourself. I didn't choose to get insulted, but I choose how I react to the insult. That's being responsible. Okay? When we say we create everything in our life, well, I didn't create that asshole that called me an asshole. You created your experience. You're the one in charge of how these voices rise naturally, and as you discover how to manage it, you become conscious. Eventually, you also created that guy who insulted you. You did something for that person to react. Maybe you were in your right, so you would do it again if it happened. But maybe you can understand if there is something you could change about it, maybe you could. Without effort, just, okay, I could have been more compassionate. I agree. So I did create that asshole who called me an asshole because I did, you know, offend his pride without knowing before actually trying to offend mine. Sometimes you discover your dynamic, your interaction, the Kyo level of experience. Okay. Good. Eventually, after many years, we're not talking 2 years, we're talking even more, your body will start to have virtuous temptations. Your body will want to give a bit more to the other instead of just by greed wanting to have more for you. Then you have the reflex of charity. Charity is not to give something that will cause you suffering. It's whatever you can share without having to suffer about it, you would. You just give it. So everyone can have some of that resource. Okay? Forgiveness is not about accepting the other was okay. It's not about that there's no correction of behavior. It's about disengaging your pride, your hatred about it, so that you will stop suffering, and then personal growth can happen with you and with the other. And if you can do something to make sure justice is served, you should, because that's another virtue. Justice is a virtue, and justice means if others should correct their behavior, they should. But the reason why someone else should correct their behavior is not because you don't want to be insulted anymore. That would be egocentric. It's simply because you want everyone else to be free from that suffering. So it's not about you. It's about this person should correct their behavior so no one else has to suffer about it. Okay? So there is a form of understanding and charity for all of society, including you, about someone else's behavior. And sometimes when it's legal, you just call the cops because it's their job to do it. And if it's not about calling cops, it's not a crime, at one point you can't change someone else's behavior. So you move on, you know, you move on with your life. You don't waste energy when correction of behavior won't happen. Don't forgive if they correct behavior. Now, a little parenthesis about forgiveness. I want to forgive you, but I need to talk to you first. False humility, that's hypocrite. If you forgive, you don't need the other to agree about your forgiveness. Because that means I'll forgive you if I can talk to you. That means I'll forgive you if you acknowledge that you were wrong. Then this is not forgiveness. That's obtaining reparation in your ego. That's disengaging the pride. But that's not forgiveness. That's okay, so my pride is not offended anymore because you admitted that you were wrong. I'm okay with that. I can forgive you now. Then it's not forgiveness. Okay? That's false humility. That's not real. Forgiveness does not require you to resolve anything with the other and does not require the other to resolve anything, period. It's about your experience of it. So I need to talk to you to resolve something. That's not forgiveness. However, for the sake of the other person's personal growth, you should have conversations about what you felt and how you live. But only if growth will happen. If the other won't change, why do you need the other to become aware of the personal growth aspect? That's because of your pride. Personal growth is personal. It's about you. It's not about the other. If you want to implicate the other in the conversation, it's because you want to rectify. If you're going to stay in contact with a person, if you keep having contact and dynamic interaction with someone, well, you want to become comfortable, so you need to set the cards on the table and put the dots on the I's. Okay? You want things to be resolved so you will have a good collaboration with people, but it's not for your pride to be soothed. This is something you have to do alone. Okay? If nothing will change, why would you even waste energy in trying to get the other to say he's sorry when there is not going to be personal growth? Do your work on yourself. You are responsible of your own reaction. And that's pretty hard. But that's where the power comes from. If you declare that you are in charge of what you felt and how you reacted, you're in charge of that, then you declare that you're powerful, that you're the one causing your reality. And then you start to have power over nature. So with Rin, we start by acknowledging things as they are. It doesn't mean that you're powerless and you can't change them. It's about accepting them as they are, to be objective. And as you grow with Kyo and To, you discover yourself until you get to the point of SHA, the fourth kuji-in, where you affirm that you're the one causing what's outside. Okay? We're progressing into this powerful creation and manifestation aspect. We're not in design manifestation as it is, but we're getting into this idea that you're the one who can now benefit and use that power. When first you took things as they are, Vajra, now you can use it. This is the little haya in the mantra. So go to the SHA page. The martial arts will go like this. Okay.
9. Page 9.
Page 9. Haya in the dictionary means ride. And if we have a zoological context, it actually means horse in Sanskrit. And if it's not talking about a creature, an animal, or a person, okay, if it's not a it, then haya does not mean horse, it means ride, because the same word changes depending where it's applied, okay? So, haya Vajra means ride the lightning. Pretty cool, huh? In this context, if Vajra is not the lightning, but Vajra is this availability to take things as they are, to ride it is to use it. Okay? So, having this Rin state of being, the base Vajramanatai, as things flow, I'm fully experiencing Swaha, pure self-expression, how things are, I'm allowing it, and I ride it. I go along, okay? So, in this case, the thing that can be ride, the haya, if it means ride, what does it ride? It's not the Vajra that it rides, it's the Tai. I'm riding in the flow. So then you have this idea, if you are that flow of event with Rin, everything is that flow of things as they happen. If you ride on the flow, you can imagine that you're in your boat on that river and you actually start to have control over it. Okay? That's what the haya means. That you start to be the one who navigates. You can't stop that flow, but you start to use it to attain your objective. If you're on a river, it's not because you're stuck on it and you have to let it carry you. It's because you decided, this is the river I'm going to get in. Because I'm putting my canoe on it, and I know where I'm going to go, and I know when I'm going to get off. And when you do sports in the wild, you decide which sport you do. You decide which trajectory, which kind of fun you're going to have. You still have the humility to accept putting your canoe on the river will never change the river's course. But you're doing it out of choice and you're in charge of the speed, the direction, and your interaction with it, it means you start avoiding the rocks. The river. This is all metaphorical, but that's what it means. That as you have this feeling of responsibility and power, you are in charge of how it's going to affect you. And that means that you're starting to have power. So, SHA. This mudra, we call it the inner lion. It's not about everything inside. Finally, there is an outside power that starts to happen, although it's all about inside, but it's in this interaction with the outside. But we call it the inner lion because if you have it like this, looking at you, it looks like a lion. That's when you twist your fingers in the martial arts style. If you just have the two fingers inside, this is just the mudra of SHA. You can all say Haya Mudra, okay? Where your power finger is out, meaning it's expressing itself fully with no hesitation. The pinky is the mind, the understanding finger. And the thumb is the grounding finger, okay? So all of these are expressed grounded. I understand the power that I express. And you're there. So that means that you're in charge. You start to make intellectual or mental intentional choices of that power manifestation, and you're still well grounded in yourself. And the ring finger is the feeling finger, and the major is the experience and wisdom finger, and they are inside. So you're still expressing your power, index, intentionally, pinky, grounded, thumb, while you're centered inside. Wisdom and feeling is inside. So you're still there in your inner contemplation, interacting outside. Okay? And this is what will give you that martial art power. You're not out there. You're here, affecting out there. Okay? You're self-contained, actually. That's the divine act of God, self-contained aspect. And then, in martial arts, you're not doing personal growth. You are going to put your feelings under the management of your experience. So that means I manage my feelings while I'm expressing that power. So in martial arts, that's when you gain mastery of a combat situation. Okay? Because the feeling ring finger will go at the base of the power index and be binded by experience to stay there. And then you have your little lion looking at you. Hello. Right? Because of the aesthetic of what it could look like. So this is all the experience of SHA. Now the way we do it in the temple, not in the dojo, we take the wisdom and feeling fingers inside because it's not about managing a situation. The martial one is about I'm in charge of the situation and I don't get myself carried. I don't allow my feelings to carry me away. That's what it means. Now we go inside, we're still feeling what's going on and wisely experiencing it. We're in charge. We're doing a growth in there. When we put simply our finger inside, it's less painful for the fingers if you have big, rigid fingers. Okay. So this is how we do it in our path, which does not discredit the martial art aspect, because you want to be in charge of a combat situation. You don't want to get your feelings and your pride carry you away. But we do it here in the transformational approach, where we want to grow from these experiences. It is centered inside and conscious of what's going on, that I will express my power and influence in this world. Om Haya Vajra. So that entire teaching that seemed to be just a completion of the toe was actually a bridge to get to the point of SHA, where that Jitarashi makes you happy, allows you to rejoice of life, and also puts you in charge because it endorses the responsibility that you discovered with Rin and Kyo. Okay? So there's a dynamic of one step to the other if you just want to manifest, you can't just practice Zai like crazy, because you won't be able to manifest until you feel that you're in charge with SHA. And you can't feel in charge if you did not conquer yourself with To, and you're not conscious of your sense of interaction with Kyo, and accepting things as they are with Rin. One is built on the other. Okay? So you always have more of each step than the following ones, okay, or equal. If you don't know which one to practice, sit and do Rin. There's never enough of that Rin. Accepting things as they are. That will end combats that don't need to start right there. But then you will want to feel your interaction, because it's fun to interact. Most of those interactions is a laughing trip, a good meal you shared, an orgasm you got, and tons of fun that you lived in life. And sometimes it's about an argument. And then you want to go inside and discover yourself. So your power and wisdom is self-contained, and outside is your ring feeling and your pinky understanding. What it means in To is that what is active is understanding what you feel, while your power is focused inside. Okay, so this is the active application of the technical integration, when you intellectually manage what you feel, but you still feel it. Okay, then we move to the next one. We trade one finger, the feeling goes inside and the power goes inside, and this is what changes between To and SHA. Okay, so in this sense of living with that flow of event, collaborating, what the Jedi would say, you don't control the Force, it doesn't control you. You go with the Force and the Force goes with you, and together you join in that stream of events of life, and you start to be in charge. So now we're going to do the practice a few minutes, okay? 1 or 2 minutes like every time. That's for initiation purposes. Usually you do a lot more when you're at home, 20 minutes at a time, 1 hour at a time, how you want it. Okay. Breathe inside. That was weird. It's not like if you outside. Then pay attention inside you. Mantra. Om Haya Vajramanataya Swaha. Feel in charge. Get humble enough to observe what you are not in charge of, and the desire to be responsible of how you manage that flow. And there's a rejoicement, there's like a happy feeling of knowing you are powerful. So now everyone, you'll say, I am power. Okay, go. I am power. And feel. Softly, I am power. Look at your power trips. You have this anger and violence that could rise. Don't confuse power and violence. Power is to protect happiness. Power is cute and gentle, not violence. Look at the arrogance that wants that power for personal gain. It will rise, it's natural. I am power. That is the big lesson of SHA. When you decide to become power, Haya Vajramanata, when you have power, your arrogance will steal it from you. Breed and grow from that. Your defensive system will want to use that power. Don't allow it. Simply just stay in charge. Keep your feelings in check, huh? The reason why we did that mudra of the martial way. Stay conscious inside. You were afraid to hurt people, resolve it. You are power. It's too late. Okay? Oh my God, if I'm powerful, I could hurt people. Of course you could. I am power. Live it. You need to become in charge. Stop being afraid of the consequences. you make sure that people gain happiness out of that power. That's it. That's the path of responsibility. So it's a normal breath, and once in a while you do a good profound breath, but no strong effort. Okay, just mantra. Om Vajra Manataya Swaha. Sorry about that mantra again, because my mistake. Haya, haya, haya. Om Haya Vajra Manataya Swaha. Om Haya Vajra Manataya Swaha. Whispered or silent. After a while, when you do a mudra here, you can start to rest it if you're going to do a 20-minute. When you do a mudra, look if your shoulders are tense, like I'm holding the mudra here. As much as you can, only the bicep should be doing an effort, and just the minimum. Everything should be relaxed, and just the biceps are doing the minimum to keep you mudra here. Okay. Eventually, you'll rest it, not because your biceps can't hold it, just because you want to rest even more. Okay. But this is where you want to do your mudra, between solar plexus and throat. Okay, all this area. It's not about the heart. It's about affirming. I am doing this. Look at how your shoulders are tense when you, I am power. Whoa, okay, yeah, I am power. Power is cool. Right? It's an emotional state of power, but you'll see when it becomes aggressive, when it's about that pride that rises, when you're really, I am power, I can kick butt now. That's not power, that's violence, that's arrogance. Okay, that's wanting to avenge. That is what you have not forgiven of your past experience. Okay, that's lack of personal growth, and it's unavoidable. It's also a genetic need to survive. It's not your fault. It's not because you're a bad person or you didn't work on yourself enough. There is the physical genetic response that wants to go into the defense system. It's okay. Realize it, and it takes time. Eventually, it'll stop rising. Okay, the violence will stop rising. Then your amount of power is awesome. When you go powerful, the amount of anger and hatred, and you know, some people, to put their power, they need to stimulate that response of emotional support. I can destroy you now. That's because there's so much of that violence inside that this is your motivation. You were powerful when you were violent. So you make the association, and it's not in the head, it's emotional and physical, that you are powerful if you are violent, or if you are in hatred or anger or reacting. So you want to go in combat with that attitude because you have trained yourself. That's how to do it. Now, if you remove that anger, your first belief will be that your power goes away. And because you're used to be powerful only when angry, when you disengage the anger, your power seems to go down. And it does. Because you need to train that if you have the ability to put that much pressure in a strike, with that much speed and precision, regardless if you're angry or not, your body has the ability to do it, so you should be able to do it, regardless of your motivation. So you have to disengage the enslavement of your body to an emotional response. And then your state of being will be so much trust that you are in charge, that you can deliver any kind of power in any speed and with all the precision that your nervous system can handle, because you chose to, because you've mastered yourself. So when you see your disengagement of anger and your level of power and efficiency goes down, it's normal. It's just the time it takes to rebuild another system, which actually to remove any system. And the natural presence of power will become, I know I can bring justice. I know I can ensure compassion and free others from hatred and enslavement because I am power. And you'll feel this samurai, this service to the collective. And you'll be centered inside with no need of approval of others. Okay? And then your power is ultimate. And you're not angry at someone who wants to fight. You simply do what is required because there's a fight. So might as well end it as soon as possible. And if the only way is for the other to be unable to fight anymore, then you'll get to that point. But that should be a last resort. Okay? In any case, if you're a warrior, you want to get to this point of being able to end the fight as quickly as possible. First, try to avoid it. Not by fleeing. You could flee if it's the way to. You could disengage it through verbal interaction. If you have the gaze of peace, in forced combat, the third step is the gaze of heavens. You look at the other with such an absorbed state of peace that you share to the other. And if their violence, if their power is motivated by anger, their anger goes away. So they lose their power because they still have that system. So those who want to learn forced combat, the third step of forced combat, the heaven's gaze, you just so focus in that certainty of virtue, and you know the other lives that virtue too. You just share your experience of peace with the other, and this full embodiment of power, and their violence just dissolve because you integrate it, because you dissolve it, not by anger that would just nourish them. You know there is peace so much, and then they come like, you know, the fuel they need to deliver their power, because they don't have that training, it goes away. So those who are very strong, that's one of the 5 steps of forced combat. That's the one I master the most. And that's how I've avoided a lot of conflict. When conflict arises, even verbally, I go into this heaven's gaze. I'm still following conversation, but the anger where the conflict rises becomes disengaged. I mean, they don't even have the will to fight anymore. And I'm not doing this to impose my will on them. I'm doing it because I know peace is a better outcome. I still will try to resolve my issues if I have them. And I will try to help them resolve theirs if I can and if they want the help. Or else it's just a question of disengaging combat and it's over. Okay? So the heaven's gaze is one of those things where someone who has discovered that power, then the heaven's gaze just makes 2 people completely certain that peace is the best outcome. But they are 2 super powerful beings. Right? Cool, huh? And sometimes because they had to obey their own emperor, absorbed in that state, 2 generals had to fight. Both from a complete conviction that peace is the best outcome, they will still obey their emperor because this is the engagement they took. They would bow in great respect and just say, I hope you win to the other. And give everything they have. That's awesome, man. It's a compassionate fight. And eventually, you should go see the life of General Guan Yu, the Bladesman. Bladesman in English, but it's only existing in Mandarin, I think. And it's the movie General Guan Yu, who once was going to fight a general, and he said, where are your men that usually would protect you? And that general answered, I learned of that General Guan Yu, that you obviously are, that goes from one village to another, killing everyone that oppose him. And I wanted to spare the lives of my warrior, so I will be the only one to fight you today. And Guan Yu answered, men such as you, with such compassion, we need men such as you. When the new regime comes in, I will not fight you, because it's men who save the lives of his fellows. This is the kind of people that I want to persist. You know, Guan Yu only fought those who believed in violence. So he said, I will not fight you. I'm going to the next village. And the general that Guan Yu spared his life, I forgot his name, he said, I'm sorry, but the emperor told me that I have to fight you and kill you, or fight you and die. But you can't go away. So Guan Yu, for a while, just blocked the strikes of the other, trying to philosophize and convince him not to obey his emperor. But that general of that village was so trained in honor, not pride, but honor, and the will to obey his emperor. He says, my emperor is going to have my head cut anyway if I don't die from here. So Kuan Yin said, then I will die and not you. And he throws his halberd to the feet of the other general and waits. So the other general, having listened to the philosophy of Kuan Yin in this entire combat, takes the halberd of Kuan Yin and cuts his own head. So Kuan Yin could survive. Because now that general understood that Kuan Yin was the man that should survive that combat to continue with. That's awesome, man. That really happened. That's historical fact. There's so much recording in the Chinese history of everyone that was involved there, because they write a lot, the Chinese. So that's an awesome story. I just love it. You know, two warriors ready to kill each other discover that the other has more compassion than them, serve the same purpose of ultimate peace, and Kuan Yin just said, so I'm the one who dies, and the other says, no, I am. Okay. The instruction of this general was either to kill Kuan Yin or die under his halberd. So, well, at least I die with honor because I respected the will of my emperor. I die under your blade, and he cuts his own head. Well, he damages enough to die. That's awesome, man. That's this kind of two people in the force combat that I teach who got to this point of heaven's gaze, to be philosophically embracing virtue in the midst of a combat. So that's a very profound integration where even the body trying to save his own life is virtuous. So that's profound incarnation of God. That was the entire teaching on SHA. Om Haya Vajra Manataya Swaha. I'm implicated in that experience now. Right? 10-minute break. 10 minutes.